I need water so bad. Okay. Lose 50 pounds. No. To lose. Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and today's video I'm going to be sharing with you 15 practical and pretty simple tips that have helped me to lose 70 pounds and maintain that loss for a few years now. So if you enjoy this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And let's get started with just a little bit of background about my journey. I've mentioned many times on my channel, but if you're new, or just a little bit of a recap, I started my weight loss journey in April of 2020, and in about 5 months I lost 50 pounds, and that was the first time in my life that I've ever actually had success with weight loss. I've been overweight and struggled with my weight for most of my life, and it was just something that I never had success with. I tried so many different ways to lose weight throughout high school and college and after college, after I graduated, and that was also where I gained the majority of my weight. I gained about 50 pounds in a 2-year period. During that time, I was just at my heaviest. I was really overworking myself, not taking care of my body, not getting any exercise, not getting enough sleep, just not making my health my priority. In April of 2020, I had gotten to the point where I was pretty scared for my health, honestly, and I saw a quote online that said, if you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your illness. And something about that quote just stuck with me so much, and I was just scared about having to go to the doctor, having to get surgeries, having to deal with different illnesses that I was going to develop because of how much I was neglecting my health. And that was when I finally made the change to switch up my lifestyle and take control of my life. Anyway, these are 15 things that really helped me to lose those first 50 pounds in 5 months. And then I also lost another 20 in the following 6 months after that. So in about a year, I lost 70 pounds. Then I've been maintaining that since then. However, I have gained back a little bit of the weight, mostly in muscle though. I've stayed consistent with weightlifting at the gym, and that has really made a difference in the composition of my body, and I've continued to lose fat while still building some muscle. So the scale has shifted a little bit, but it has become less of a focus for me, and now I focus more on like progress pictures and how my clothes fit. But these are just different tips that have really helped me to start my weight loss and to stay on track with it. The first one that I'm mentioning today is one that I talk about so much on my channel because it was truly so game-changing for me, and that was to reward myself for staying consistent. And what I mean by staying consistent, the thing that I chose to do was in April of 2020, the one thing that I saw online that I was seeing people have a lot of success with was Weight Watchers. And I'd never done it before because I always thought you had to go to meetings. So when I realized they just had the app version you could use, the next day was when I decided that I was going to try it. Adam was going to do it with me. That's my husband. And we decided to start Weight Watchers, and we haven't looked back since. So that became our way to track our food, become aware of like portions and everything like that. What I did was I said, instead of worrying about losing 20 pounds in the first month, because that was what I always set was like a high goal for myself that I just couldn't control. And if I didn't hit it, it was so discouraging. And so instead of setting a specific weight that I had to hit by the end of the month, I set a consistency goal to track every single day. So even if I went over on my points in Weight Watchers that day, I still tracked everything I ate, and that kept me consistent. So I did it for 30 days, and my reward was a foot massager that I had been looking at on Amazon. So I got that for myself because I stayed consistent. And then the next month I set another goal to, again, track every single day, no matter what I ate. Again, even if I was over my points and it was like a cheat day or whatever you would consider it, just a higher point day where we're eating takeout or it's a holiday or something, I still would track everything, and that would count towards being consistent. And then if I did another 30 days or another month, then I would get the next reward. It was so motivating to me because I actually had control over tracking every day. It was up to me, again, no matter what I ate, to just track the food that I ate because I became so much more aware of it, and it just was so eye-opening to me. It made such a difference in the beginning, and it was just not as discouraging because I didn't have this goal that I wasn't going to hit or that I couldn't control if I hit. Even if I was doing everything right and I still didn't lose the weight that I had set for myself, I knew that this way I could actually control the results. And I did, and I tracked. And because I was tracking, I also lost the weight that I did in the first month and then the second month, and it continued to lose weight because I was staying consistent with tracking, and that was allowing me to lose weight. Okay, the next tip that has really helped me is to swap out some of the sauces that I was eating. Just going into like the food I was eating, before I started my weight loss journey, loved sauces. And I've always just loved different like Chick-fil-A ranch, especially ranch, queso cheese sauces, and just every sauce that you can get. So that was one reason that I realized I was consuming a lot of extra calories, especially when we started tracking. I started realizing that regular ranch was like 4 or 5 points for the regular serving, and I was using like 3 servings when I would have it. And so my sauces were kind of out of control. And what I did was I started to, first of all, find different lower point options. And that's when I found like the Bolthouse Farms dressings, which I love. And now they've even been coming out with more flavors that are just so good. But I would just find lower point sauces, and some of them we found were just not good. Like the Walden Farms dressings, we tried those, they were awful. We tried a few others, some G-Hues that we liked, some that we didn't like, different sugar-free options that we liked and some that we didn't like. And that's how I found the Sweet Baby Ray's no sugar added barbecue sauce, which is one of my all-time favorites now. And it's lower point than the regular barbecue sauce I would use. But then also with these sauces, I just started to be more aware. And actually with Weight Watchers, I never really tracked the sauces that I ate. I just would actually use the measurement that the serving was. So instead of just dousing my food in ranch, I would take the 2 tablespoon serving. And of course, if I wanted like a little bit more, I would just have it in moderation, but I would just try to keep it under control with the actual correct portions. And then I could still have the sauces that I enjoyed just in lower servings. So anyway, swapping out sauces is something that I've continued to do. I have all of my favorite low point sauces now that I use, and to this day I don't track them with Weight Watchers. It's just something I count as like my mental weeklies is what I say, but I do not track sauces, and I've just swapped out for lower point options, and it's made a really big difference. The next tip is to get more fiber and protein. So those are 2 things that I focused on, and I want to mention too, because when I started Weight Watchers, the reason that I chose it was because when I tracked calories and macros, it just seemed like too much to have to track every single food item. And with Weight Watchers, I really liked that you didn't have to track 0 point foods. You could just track the foods that were worth points. And so first of all, that motivated me to have more 0 point foods because then I didn't have to track them. But also it just was so much less overwhelming to have to track like 3 to 4 ingredients versus like 10 for a meal. So when I was on Weight Watchers, I didn't really pay much attention to other nutrition. I didn't really pay attention to even like calories or anything. However, when we'd be shopping or something or choosing different products, 2 things that I did kind of pay attention to were protein and fiber, because I knew that, especially when I started working out at the gym more, I wanted to increase my protein intake, but I knew that those 2 things would keep me more full and that they're beneficial to just incorporate. I know that in America, like it's known that not enough adults get their fiber, like it's very low for people getting their fiber intake in, and I don't know what I was at before. It probably was definitely not enough because I wasn't eating many vegetables or anything, but now when I do track with like my MyFitnessPal, I do hit my fiber goals. But anyway, I've just made it kind of a focus when I'm looking at different food labels. If I have like 2 options, maybe 2 breads or something, or 2 different products I'm looking at and they're the same point value, sometimes I'll look to see which one has more protein and which one has more fiber, and then that'll help me make my decision. And when it comes to just building meals and stuff, I try to find things that are higher in protein, different meats and stuff like that, and use different veggies to incorporate more fiber. Those are just a few things that have really helped getting more protein and fiber. But again, not tracking it. I wasn't tracking it at any point on my journey. I just kind of paid more attention to it when it came to food labels, even though I wasn't really paying attention to the other things on there. Now I've become a little bit more aware about like sugar, added sugar, calories, saturated fat, those types of things. But in the beginning, protein and fiber were my main focuses because I was wanting to make sure that I felt full and I was satisfied throughout the day. And the next tip is to find fun ways to incorporate exercise. And this is what I did when I started to incorporate physical activity. I wanted to wait a few months because I really wanted to focus on my nutrition. So when I first started in April, I didn't do any physical activity at all. I just focused on tracking and my nutrition and portion sizes and everything. So that lasted about 3 months. And at that point I had lost about 30 pounds just from doing that. And that's when I decided that I felt comfortable to start to incorporate some physical activity and exercise. And I knew in the past that running was like the one thing I always tried to force myself to do, and I just couldn't stick to it because I didn't enjoy it. I honestly dreaded it. So I knew I wasn't going to do that to myself. I wasn't going to try to find something that I couldn't stick with, and I wanted to have a fun activity. So I thought about like what I enjoyed doing as a kid because I played a lot of sports and stuff. But one thing that I used to love, especially in middle school, was rollerblading. So I was kind of embarrassed to get started, honestly. I thought that I would just look ridiculous and I didn't have confidence in myself to do it. But I went to Dick's Sporting Goods and I found some rollerblades, actually some men's rollerblades, and I was so excited about it. I got them on and went skating right away, and it definitely took some time. It took some practice to get back into it. But when I did, I remembered how much fun it actually was, and it just became my favorite way to get movement in. And so I started to skate a couple times a week just around my neighborhood in parking lots that were smooth, and it was something that I looked forward to. It didn't feel like it was exercise or was like forced or anything, or I didn't dread it like I did in the past when I had tried to lose weight, and that was like my main focus. I thought that exercise had to be like dreadful and it had to be painful and hard, but then I started skating and realized that I could be active and do that, and it didn't have to be something that I didn't look forward to. Then a few months later was when I started weightlifting at the gym, and I also really fell in love with it, and it became something that I've stayed consistent with now to this day. I skate in the summer and when the weather is warmer, but like it's been pretty cold and wet and just harder to skate for the past few months, so I haven't been able to go for a little bit now, but I do make up for it by going to the gym, and that's just been my consistent exercise that I do. Finding exercise that is fun and enjoyable for you is so important because that's what's going to make it sustainable. Okay, the next tip that really helped me was to start having dessert every night. And I don't think there was really a time that I didn't have dessert, but when I was trying to lose weight in the past, I would restrict it and I would cut out like every single sweet thing, and then I would just crave it and want to binge it so badly. Having dessert every single night is something that just really helps me to not feel like I'm restricted. I have so many different low point options that have become my favorite desserts, whether it's like a yogurt bowl or apple nachos or a creamy recipe, which I can link. I have some videos that talk more about the different sweet things that I eat because it really helps me to stay on track and make me not feel restricted, which also makes me much less likely to binge, which is something that I've really struggled with in the past. So having dessert every night is something that might sound like you can't lose weight if you have dessert every night, but you definitely can. Like I said, you can have lower point options. You can have anything you enjoy in moderation as long as you have balance with everything else. So having dessert was a huge step for me that really helped me to actually lose weight and have success with my maintenance. The next thing was to switch up my coffee, and it kind of goes along with just like realizing that I was drinking too many calories, but specifically coffee, I really liked getting like the large or extra large Dunkin' iced coffee with extra caramel, and it was so sugary. Sometimes I'd even get the sugar in it. It had cream or whatever I would get in it. I usually I think was like the regular cream, and probably was like 30 points for a coffee in the morning, and that was how I was starting my day. So when we started Weight Watchers, of course, I didn't want to drink that anymore because I realized how high point it was and how not beneficial it was to me to be drinking, and I didn't want to cut out coffee completely. And I know a lot of people struggle with this, like saying they don't want to cut out their creamer, which of course you could definitely still have yours. Like I said, I was getting a Dunkin' coffee that was very, very high in points, and I wasn't even controlling what they were putting in it, so it was like extra sugar. I always asked for extra, and it was just a really high point option. When I started WW, that's when I heard about like protein coffee and how people would take espresso or coffee and they would add a protein shake to it, like a Quest or a Premier protein shake, those like store-bought ones. That's when I started buying those. I found the Premier at first were actually what I was drinking mostly. It wasn't until a little bit later in my journey that I found the Quest salted caramel, which have just become my favorite and I've had every time since. But I started bringing that to work. So there was actually an espresso machine at work that I was able to drink coffee at, which also when I worked at the bakery place that I worked at, I had access to all these different coffee drinks, and we had this chai that was like gas station chai in a machine. So sugary, so good, but I would start my morning with it again. So another really high point option. But anyway, I would start to bring my own protein shake to work. I'd make the espresso there, add in the protein shake, and actually I started bringing in a scoop of collagen to work as well. I would just bring it in a little container, dump it in the espresso when it was made, and then mix it together. Then I would add the protein shake and then some ice. And that was my protein coffee to start the day. And it, first of all, gave me the energy that I needed from the caffeine, but also it was really filling because those protein shakes have 30 grams of protein. The scoop of collagen has 10 grams of protein. And I also took the collagen to help with my skin, but I was starting the day with 40 grams of protein and it was keeping me full. I'd usually have like a bar and a banana with it or something, or a breakfast sandwich or something like that. And then I would be full until I had a late lunch. Switching out my coffee was a huge step that made a big difference for me. And honestly, I didn't really notice much of a difference because I really thought that a lot of them tasted just like a Starbucks drink that I would get. And so it was pretty easy for me to make the switch. And it was a 2 or 3 point coffee versus again, a 20 or 30 point coffee that I was drinking in the past. Tip number 7 is something kind of small, but it really can make a big difference and add up to big results. And that is just that I started to be a little bit more aware about like where I was parking at stores, or if we were going somewhere, if I was taking the stairs or the escalator, little things like that that burn a few more calories and just have you expend a little bit more energy really can make a difference, because really that is the bulk of your calories that you're burning throughout the day. So every extra little movement or step you can get in is beneficial. When I'd go to the store, I would focus more on parking at the back, and this is still something I do. Of course, if it's cold out and I get a front row spot, sometimes I'm taking that front row spot and running inside. I will definitely do that, but especially in the summer, I park further away at parking spots. I try to make sure that I take the stairs places instead of using like an elevator or something like that, but little things like that really can add up. Tip number 8 is just to find a way that works best for you to drink water. And I started this at the start of my journey, and it definitely made a difference, especially because at work it was hard to keep up on my water intake. I always forgot to drink water. And so I got one of those half-gallon water bottles on Amazon, and it was amazing for me. I loved it. I honestly looked forward to filling it in the morning and trying to finish it by certain times because they have the times listed on them. I don't use that as much anymore. Actually, I don't really use it anymore, but I go through phases of which way works best for me. So I've gone through phases where I go back to that half gallon. I've had some other like half-gallon bottles that I really like, but as of right now, my favorite thing to do is just use a 32-ounce blender bottle, because then I just have to drink 4 of these in a day to get my gallon in, and I feel like that's just what works best for me right now. So I've liked drinking out of those. I feel like I can drink out of them quickly, but finding a way that's going to help you to drink your water, even if it motivates you a little bit more, if you get a little excited about it, like I said with the water bottle, it was something that was motivating for me, as silly as it might sound, and it really did help because water is so important, and there were a lot of times I was dehydrated that I didn't know. So when I started to really make water my priority, I definitely noticed a difference all around with even just how I felt, with my energy, with my skin, so many different things. So water's huge. Even like how my stomach felt, bloating, digestion, it really does make a difference. Then the next tip, and I kind of mentioned it earlier talking about dessert, but for me personally, not restricting anything on my journey has helped me so much from the start. I didn't restrict anything. There were some things that we said like, okay, we're not going to get fast food for the first month, because that was honestly just us trying to challenge ourselves to eat at home more. But after that first month, we started getting takeout food again, and we haven't restricted anything since, and we still just don't restrict any specific foods. So for this one, I want to say don't restrict, but also be realistic, because of course you want to have those things in moderation. And it's when I start to have too much of those things that I'm not restricting, that I enjoy, that I can feel like I'm kind of losing balance and getting too far off track. So with this, I just want to say like, don't restrict, but be realistic about it. So of course I'm not going out and getting burgers every day, but we had Culver's the other night, and we're able to have it even like once a week if we really want, as long as the rest of the week I'm having balance and moderation and I'm not getting Culver's every single night for dinner. I'm not restricting Culver's, but also I'm being realistic about the fact that I can't have it every night, but I can have it in moderation, and that's what helps to keep this balance. I also make sure to have my meals that are packed with veggies and protein throughout the day, especially on the days that I'm going to be eating a higher point meal like that, because it does help me to stay on track and have some balance. So not restricting anything, but being realistic about it is really important. And I think it also helps to heal my relationship with food, which is another huge step. Kind of going along with not restricting any specific foods, I also didn't restrict any certain times that I could eat. I actually get so many questions about if I do any fasting or if I've done any fasting on my journey, and I have not. For me personally, it does not work at all, because it really just causes me to want to binge. And when I don't eat for a long period of time, then when I can eat, I just want to eat everything in sight. And I just find that even though I still have that mentality where I want to eat huge meals, when I eat more normal size meals or normal portions, of course I still eat big portions, but even that, when I eat them spaced throughout the day, I find that I just feel better. I get way more bloated if I just eat one huge meal at the end of the day. And again, I feel like I like kind of lose control, and I just want to keep eating because I want to make up for not eating throughout the day. So for me, it's more of like a mental thing, but eating throughout the day and not having a specific time that I can only eat is very helpful for me. It helps me to feel less restrictive, and it helps me to stay just full throughout the day and energized. A lot of times when I don't eat till later, I feel like I don't have any energy. And then when I eat, I feel good for a little bit, and then I feel like I crash. So that's also just something that hasn't really worked best for me. But again, it could work for you on your journey. It's just important to do what works best for you. But for me, eating throughout the day has been a huge improvement for me. Okay, tip number 11 is to get a food scale. This is something that was the most important for me at the start of my journey because of how eye-opening it was to learn what proper portion sizes are supposed to be versus what I was eating, especially when it came to things just like pasta or rice, or honestly, cheese was probably the biggest thing, because I would eat big portions of cheese without even thinking about it. And I realized I was eating like 2 to 3 servings at a time. And so weighing out my cheese and realizing that even one serving is enough really helped me, and it just allowed me, first of all, to be accurate with my tracking, which made a huge difference with my weight loss, especially in the beginning. And it also just helped to open my eyes to what I should be eating versus what I was eating. So having the food scale just really helped to keep me on track when I was preparing meals, and also to realize how much I should be having when it comes to like protein and stuff like that. So now it's to the point where a lot of the things I don't even need my food scale to weigh out, because I kind of am just used to like portioning things. But even when I make a recipe like 2-ingredient dough, it's so nice to just weigh out the portions on the food scale and have everything accurate that way. Getting a food scale was huge for me, and I love mine. I use it pretty much every single day. Okay, tip number 12 is to have fruit after a meal if you're someone who craves something sweet right when you finish eating. And I don't do this in replacement of dessert. Like I said, I still have dessert at night and stuff. And honestly, throughout the day, there are times when I eat sweet treats and stuff. But what I found is having fruit right after, because like a lot of times I would even have fruit just with a meal, but if I just save it to the end, it really helps to satisfy that sweet tooth that I have. So whenever I finish my lunch, I love to have grapes after. And then every single day after I finish my dinner, I have a Honeycrisp apple, and it's so sweet. It satisfies my sweet tooth. And then I'll still have dessert after, but that apple kind of filled me up a little bit more because I also just had my dinner, because I always want something sweet like the second I take the last bite of my dinner. So right after I have my apple, and then I'm pretty full at that point, but I'll still have a little bit of dessert. And that's just helped me to get more fruit in, first of all, but then also to satisfy my sweet tooth a little bit and fill me up a little bit more so that I'm not as tempted to eat more for dessert. Okay, tip number 13 is something that I did more at the start of my journey, and I feel like now it's just because of the content I make and stuff, I don't do it as much. But I used to watch a lot of grocery hauls, and that was really helpful for me to just learn about different products and see what products other people liked. It made it kind of fun on our journey to just see something that someone showed on a grocery haul, go to the store and try it and see if we thought the same about it. Sometimes we'd like it, sometimes we wouldn't. But it just made the journey more interesting, and it helped us to learn more about different products that maybe we could incorporate and have on our journey. And so even now when we go to the store, we're so willing to scan different things and try new things, even if we haven't before, because a lot of times they end up becoming our favorite products that we find. And that's why we like to do the snack reviews and everything like that. So watching grocery hauls, watching snack reviews, those types of things on YouTube and stuff to just get inspired really did help, especially at the start of my journey. And now even just making those videos helps to keep me inspired. So that was something that really did make a difference when it came to just making the journey a little bit more fun and making the food more fun and interesting. And again, working on healing my relationship with food. Tip number 14 is to, first of all, sleep's a priority, make sleep a priority, but to kind of get off my phone at night and just go to bed, because there are so many times where I'm laying in bed and I just want to keep scrolling and looking at stuff, and I just have to remind myself how much better I feel when I get more sleep, and I just put my phone down. And it's never easy, but honestly, it has made such a difference for me. There are so many nights, like I said, where I just want to keep looking at my phone, and I just tell myself, okay, no, this is it. I need to just put my phone down and like breathe for a little bit and actually get some good sleep, because it's not even good to be on your phone right before bed anyway. And it just is something that I've always struggled with. I feel like it's just become a routine thing that when I lay down, I go straight to my phone. And so trying to cut back on the time that I spend on my phone, especially at night, has really helped to improve my sleep and allow me to get more sleep. So making sleep a priority, and also doing the things that will help you to actually get your sleep, like putting your phone down, which I know it stinks sometimes and I don't always want to do it, but it really does help and make a difference for me. So it's allowed me to get better sleep, which in turn has helped me to just have more energy and regulate digestion and everything, because that does have an impact on your weight loss and your health overall. Okay, and then tip number 15 is to just do what works best for you and not worry about others, and not worry about what works for other people and comparing to other people, because a lot of times, first of all, you don't know the full picture of what works for them, but everybody's body is so different, and what works for them is different for what's going to work for you. And when I first started out this time around, instead of trying to like copy what someone else did or just do exactly what they were telling me to do, I started Weight Watchers, and I just kind of went in with like a blank slate, trying to figure out what was going to work best for me. And that's when we started to make like the fast food meals at home, and started to just find the things that worked when it came to making recipes and keeping things simple, everything like that. Like bowls became one of my staples, wraps also. And so those things, and those might not work for someone else, but I realized just from doing it naturally and realizing like, okay, this is how I'm going to get my protein and veggies in. This is what I enjoy and I can be consistent with. And that's what works for me. So finding what works and sticking with that, and not worrying about if you're doing something that works for someone else, is really important, because again, when you compare yourself to others and then you don't see the same results, even if you're doing everything they are, it's because not everything that they do is going to work for you. So you have to find what works best for you on your journey, what's going to be sustainable for you, what's going to work for your body type and your health specifically. And I think it's just really important to get inspiration from others, but also just focus on what's going to work for you. Okay, so that wraps it up for today's video. I just wanted to go over 15 things and kind of be a little bit more practical about like exactly what I did so that I could make these changes. And all of these things I pretty much started out at the start of my weight loss journey in April of 2020. Again, like I mentioned, I had lost the 50 pounds in 5 months, really sticking to these. And then I've continued to stick to those things for years to follow. And I've stayed consistent now. It'll almost be 4 years in April. So this is just, again, what's worked best for me, but I hope some of these tips can be helpful to you, whether you are in the middle of your journey or you're just starting out. There are certain things that even if you just want to make a couple changes, they really can add up, because over time, small changes and small habits that you develop can add up to huge results. And I've learned that on my journey. Honestly, I've been surprised by how well it's worked to do a little bit a day at a time and stay consistent with it. And the results can be amazing. And so I've been able to surprise myself and to continue to achieve these goals that I never thought I could by staying consistent and just taking it one day at a time. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.